Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Qasim's not joining today. It's just me, Dan. And our guest today is Lucas. So, Lucas, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dan. Lucas Meadowcroft here, CEO and co-founder of CROFTI. We're an innovation consulting organization. And I've also got a few other tech startups that I'll probably dive into as we go into this interview. But essentially, artificial intelligence is our main focus these days off the back of the last 3 to 4 years, building our own AI tech startup in the US, based in Brisbane, Australia, if you couldn't already pick up my accent.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing currently and I guess how you got started in your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Entrepreneurship journey started 15-ish years ago. I think I got a bit of an itch like most entrepreneurs. I feel like I started later in life, to be honest, around 23, 24 years old. And I knew I wanted to do more like most of us, when we're working for an employee and you're like, you think you can do better. But I actually got invited to a entrepreneurship workshop by the Entourage. I'm not sure if you've heard of that in the US. It's a entrepreneurship course meetup. It was based in Sydney, and so I took a punt, flew down there, went to the workshop, and just got blown away. And went, "Yep, this is definitely for me." There's 1,000 entrepreneurs in the room. It was a pretty big conference event, and that just kickstarted my adrenaline to wanting to get into it. So I approached my boss at the time and said, "Hey, want to go into business partnership?" And he turned around and said, "Actually, do you just want to buy the company off me? I want to retire." And that kickstarted the opportunity to get into business and do it for myself.
So he just said, "You can go ahead and buy my company from me." It was that simple.
It was pretty much that simple. Unfortunately, like anything in life, it didn't work out like that. We ended up not going down that direction once we did the business valuation and went through that process to look at buying the company. What he wanted for it versus what it was worth was chalk and cheese, and we ended up unfortunately after 8 years in that business together, unfortunately going our own ways, and then we were in mitigation for 18 months afterwards. And so I stepped out of that company, I left, and then started up my own gig instead.
Sure. So can you tell us a little bit more about CROFTI and what exactly you do, and also just what makes you better than your competition?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had many iterations over the last 10 plus years. That journey I just talked about was IT support. So my background for 20 years has been in the IT support sector, essentially providing outsourced IT support to organizations. The MSP industry, if you might have heard of it, managed service provider. That's when I stepped out of that business and then started up my own MSP of sorts. But it wasn't enough. And so innovation was at our core. And so for the last 10 or so years, we've been providing innovation consulting, obviously iterations over the years. But as you can imagine, heavy focus on AI these days. A lot of it up until now has been just business process improvement, looking at spreadsheets, looking at ways that people use systems, looking at how you can integrate different systems to each other. Obviously, with the open API stack these days, it's come a long way in the last 10 years. Essentially replacing all mundane tasks in a company. How do you remove people from doing what they're doing on a daily basis and just streamline their daily routine, or essentially replace admin staff from doing those tasks whatsoever and use them in a more effective customer focused way or revenue generation way for the organization. So streamlining everything from start to finish. We've been heavily focused on that this last 8 months. So since the beginning of this year, the last 3 to 4 years we've been in the AI space. So we built a artificial intelligence tool for IT support. Once again, that industry that we knew. We built a triage tool set, essentially replacing the need for a triage person. So a ticket comes into the help desk, we analyze it, we categorize it, and we prioritize it to the right engineer. So the whole scenario around, you as a staff member, when you got an IT problem, you submit it to your IT help desk. My computer's running slow. I need to set up a new staff member tomorrow. my printer's not working, reset my password, all those mundane IT support requests that people submit to an IT company on a daily basis. We've automated that process to understand that information from a human language perspective and then process it through their system, automating that process. So it was an awesome experience. We went obviously raised capital from US investors. We went through that whole VC journey, put money in ourselves, back it up with VC money, focused on that for 3 years. That's called Tribute.ai. We were just too early to market, so we haven't found product market fit. We've got 50-ish MSPs using our software from multiple different countries, US being the main focus. But yeah, too early to market. AI is now picking up traction, which is great. But we're obviously before the ChatGPT boom.
What makes you want to focus on clients in the US? And obviously, if you're in Australia and it's a pretty big country, there's lots of business. So what makes you want to focus on the US market specifically?
It's usually forward thinking. So there's a huge opportunity when it comes to wanting to implement technology. Australia is one of these places where it's great to do innovation testing, but to get innovation adoption it's a slow process. We as Aussies love to, we're pretty safe, right? Like we don't really have to think too much outside the box to have a really good lifestyle here. If you've ever been to Australia, it's a beautiful place to live. I said safe before, like super safe. You're pretty safe in your job. You don't really have to think too far or push too many boundaries to have a good lifestyle. And so why innovate? You don't need to, right? Where, as you've done in the US, and especially now with the recession and the way the economy's gone, you got to think on your feet. You got to be different. You got to be better than your competitor. And so innovation, we find, especially with the clients that we're working with, they want to move fast, like really fast. And that's fun. That's exciting.
100%. So do you find yourself also targeting companies in Europe or Asia, or is it really just mostly US?
We are still adopting clients from word of mouth, referrals, essentially. So we're not out there really marketing. It's a consulting business, right? So it's not like a product that you can just buy off the shelf and run with it. Like we have consultants literally in the business, diving into every process, interviewing every staff member. Like it's very heavily focused. So we're not really, so we haven't got digital marketing and heaps of different concepts out there to this point in time. So everything's through word of mouth. So essentially like this conversation we're having today, someone will pick it up, listen to it, they'll jump on a session with us, we'll dive into their business, and then we'll do a diagnostic to figure out, how we can automate and save them hundreds of thousands of dollars or increase their revenue by hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And that's typically the process we go through. Though, because we are in AI, I'm now experimenting with digital twins and the marketing concepts around that to be able to do some sales and marketing for us. So then it's not 100% relying on us to do it.
In terms of your software, and do you feel like that it minimizes or eliminates the need for any of these, IT support? Because, for example, like my company, we have a team in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh is known for, IT support. So do you think that there's still going to be these types of roles, or do you think that your software is going to kind of get rid of these basic IT support roles in the next few years?
It's not going to eliminate it completely. There is companies out there trying to do this. I don't think us as humans have accepted the elimination of roles. Like there's this whole, controversy around AI and should we adopt it fully and what will happen to a society? Humans won't let it. It's there's going to be this early adopters like us and our clients where we're all in. It's like less than 0.1%, right? Where majority of the human race, there's going to be this. It's got to be augmentation of the job. So you talk about IT support. There's always going to be IT support requirements because people want to have a face-to-face conversation with someone, a phone call. They want to know that their problem's being solved by a human being because a trust factor is there. I'm talking short term here, the next 3, 5, maybe even 10 years. Long term, completely different story, right? So once the trust factors, that whole evolution, right? You're going through a bit of a mindset process change as a society. So once the trust factor is there, then absolutely, let's call it 10 years from now, AI is now part of our life. Everyone else in the society will come along for the ride, I dare say, and go, okay, now we accept it, now we're okay with it, now we're happy to have our password reset by a bot on a daily basis and have our computers fixed. That's just not an IT support, that's across the board, right? So would you be happy to communicate with a non-human on a daily basis to essentially look after your entire life? Right now, probably not. In a few years, absolutely you would, because you'll be able to 10x your productivity.
So in terms of like what you're seeing in general, you have people, right, who are really comfortable working, of course you mentioned calling, talking to people on the phone. Do you think that it's more about this comfort thing that you're referring to? It's not about that they don't have the ability. I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen like Tesla implemented these like automated phone calls where they have the ability to make the calls. I think it's just people are just not, they're not going to be willing to talk to robots per se.
Yeah, technology is not quite there off the shelf, right? You can build it and spend the money to get it to a point that you're very happy with it, but it's still not there at the point where you can buy it off the shelf and it's $100 a month. It's a subscription type service where it's absolutely perfect. It's tech's not there yet. I think once the technology gets to that point, it's a cheap enough service that you're happy as a consumer that the quality is amazing, then yeah, absolutely. What's stopping us from having that ability to do that? But then once again, are we ready as a race to then essentially we're crossing the line, right? We're crossing the chasm to that have that in our daily life, and I think that's at that point in time that it would be like, I'm not saying like we're having amazing traction with all our clients and businesses in all sections where they're happy to embrace change and happy to embrace technology now, knowing that they'll be well ahead of their competitors and absolutely dominating in their space, for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years before their competitors catch up. So that's the awesome opportunity to adopt it now. I'm just talking from a mass adoption perspective.
So what's your top priority for your business in the next 3 to 6 months?
This year, essentially, the rest of this year, we're in the process of productizing. So because we had that, I wouldn't say it's a win, but we had the taste of productizing the IT support AI bot. Even though we haven't, as I said, we haven't found a massive amount of traction because we're just a bit too early. As we dive into these organizations from an innovation consulting standpoint, we're finding opportunities where we can turn those into applications and then sell that to the masses. So can we build a legal AI bot or a sales BDM bot that will sit in your sales team or your account management team, and then roll that out to every other organization in that industry. So it's just finding those quick wins, build those products, and then rather than scaling a consulting team to 10, 20, 30, 40 people, can we do it on the basis of using AI to help us scale?
So in terms of word of mouth, who is your ideal type of client or customer?
Yeah, so we have 2 major, if you call them avatars, not industry focused, so it's more their personas. So you've got the customers who really want to scale and they want to do things differently, and they want to embrace change in technology. So they've already been thinking about this. Everyone's using, or I shouldn't say everyone, majority of people are using ChatGPT. So how do you take ChatGPT technology and automate the entire business? So if you're already thinking like that, then that's, you're going through massive growing pains. You want to scale really fast. On the flip side, what we're seeing is, especially off the back of the recession just around the corner, is how do we downsize our businesses, but not obviously completely lose our company. And so we're helping businesses to remove a lot of admin staff using technology to automate a lot of their processes and roles, but keep the profits in the business. So then it's sustainable through the next 3 to 4 years until this economy gets back on its feet again.
For sure. So what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before we started this whole entrepreneurship journey?
The book I'm listening to right now, which is Why 2x Your Life When You Can 10x It. Every 12 months or so, we review our past, 12 months, and we go, okay, so what we did then, how can we do it 10% or 20% better? And that's what us as humans typically, want to improve by. We're now diving into this conversation around why do we do that? For what purpose? Why are we not, focused on the 10x methodology, which I'm just loving. So yeah, I wish I had learned this concept or dive into this. Once again, you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you get 10, 20 years experience under your belt, you really don't know what life is about. But yeah, this whole, why 2x when you can 10x it, it's pretty cool.
Sure. So if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now? Where do you expect things to go for your business?
We're going to have multiple apps in the marketplace, solving multiple different business process issues using AI, and companies will be we've already got a global footprint, so we just have our marketplace on a global footprint, and people will be automating their back end processes, and unfortunately, there'll be no need for traditional administration, data entry roles anymore, and we would have automated a lot of those processes to speed up productivity in companies.
So if somebody wanted to reach out to you or your company, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
The great thing about my name, Lucas Meadowcroft, is it's unique. So you won't be able to find anyone else in the world that has my name. So you can easily just Google me, LinkedIn me. In the show notes here, I'll send through my links. Active on every social platform, Twitter, X.com, I should say, LinkedIn, in my email, lucas@crofti.com.au. So, pretty easy to find me.
Awesome. Well, Lucas, thank you so much for your time. We're rooting for you. Hopefully we can chat again in 1 year from now as you guys keep growing and scaling.
Yeah, perfect, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye.